Hello Fiat fans, and welcome to my video tutorial on installing and using the infotainment system tweaks that are kindly published by Ameridan on his amazing blog. So we're going to cover first a little bit in-car, and we're going to answer two questions. One, can we indeed use these tweaks with our car? And number two, why would we want to? So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to check the firmware version number of your infotainment system. And compare that to the firmware versions that the tweaks in fact work with. So we'll start the system up and I'll show you how to get to your version information. Okay, so once we're booted, we go to the home screen and then we scroll right to settings, select that, and then we scroll right to system, and then we scroll down to about, select that, scroll down to version information, select that, and there you see the top line gives our operating system version. In this case it's 5600530 space NA space N, and I'll just decode that for you. The numbers 5600530 is the version number. NA code, that means North American market. The other possibilities are EU for Europe, or 4A or ADR, which is for Australia, South Africa, South America and other oceanic regions, and JP would be for Japan. And then the last letter there, N is the SatNav protocol for all regions except for Japan, and M is the SatNav protocol for Japan. So once we know our number, we can figure out whether the tweaks will work. They work with numbers 5600521 in either North American or EU, and also with 5600530 in EU, 4A, North America, and that's about it. So, in this case, yep, in fact, the tweaks will work, so that's good. Now I'm going to show you some of the annoyances or things that can be corrected by the tweaks. In other words, answer the question, why would I want to mess with this stuff anyway? In order to do that, I'm going to actually shut the system off, because the first two things that I plan to correct with the tweaks happen very quickly on boot up. So bear with me while we shut down. So the first two are, and I'll mention them now just before I start because they go by pretty quickly. First, there's a boot animation sequence you'll see. Now if you have an Abarth like I do, you can replace the Fiat boot sequence, which you'll see in a moment, with the Abarth animation sequence that was installed in other than North American market cars. And then there's also the nanny disclaimer, the safety warning that comes up, and that can be disabled. So let's take a look at those now by booting the system. There's the Fiat boot, and here's the nanny warning. So we can change that Fiat boot to an Abarth branded boot animation, and we can remove that nanny disclaimer as well. Moving on, option number E is to change the individual background image. I previously did an article on the different background images you can select from the tweaks and what they can look like. You can see here that the stock is sort of a smoky grey on black background. It's not particularly attractive, so we can change that to an image of our choosing. Option number L, the next one we'll look at, is called Install Main Menu Loop. So you see here are 5 icons of the system. If I scroll to the left to Applications, if I keep scrolling left, nothing happens. Similarly, if I scroll all the way right and keep scrolling right, nothing happens. What this little tweak does is just allow us, if we keep scrolling in the same direction, it will leap from here to the other side of the screen so you can scroll in a leap. Just a handy little thing. The next set has to do with the audio system, so I'm going to go ahead now and select Entertainment. Now, if we go to Audio Sources here, we get the default list, FM, AM, XM, and so forth. Now, a number of these, quite a few of us, might not use very often. So this tweak allows us to change the order. I don't think we can completely customize it, but there's a more frequently used order where things like your USB stick, which most of us probably use fairly frequently, would just appear higher in the list. So that's one thing we can do. Also, let's say we're using our USB stick and we have a list of songs. If it's a fairly long list, as it is in this case, you can see if I wanted to get to a song that I know begins with a Y, I'm going to have to do a lot of scrolling to get to it. So this is another list loop improvement tweak. It's called, it's number K, so that if I kept scrolling this way, I'm scrolling left or up now, and it just doesn't do anything, but it would allow it to wrap around and start at Z, so that I'd be able to get to the bottom half of the list, or the bottom third of the list, a little bit quicker, and vice versa. So that's one thing you can do. Option Y, install bigger album art cover. So let's just say we pick a song. Doesn't matter what it is. You can see there's a small album art icon that comes from my USB stick, and it's pretty small. This tweak just allows it to be displayed a little bit bigger, which is nice for some people. Option D, remove blank album art frame. If I didn't have this graphic available on my stick, there's some sort of a default frame it shows that's just blank. This tweak allows you to either replace it with one of 3 selectable icons. There's a little music note and a couple of other ones. Or I believe there's an option in there, sub-option in there, that allows you to just not display anything at all if you don't have the art. So that might be handy. Now the best one, and probably my favorite tweak of all. So we'll turn the volume up here. Let's say you're playing a song, and for whatever reason, like perhaps you're trying to talk into a video, you mute. Okay, it mutes the sound, but when you unmute, the song has progressed. It doesn't pause. So option I, install pause on mute, means that anytime you pause, anytime you mute the song, it actually pauses it. So that's a really wonderful feature. I'm looking forward to that one. Okay, so moving on, I guess probably one of the biggest ones is that for quote-unquote safety reasons, the touchscreen you cannot use while it's moving. So, for instance, in the navigation portion, if you wanted to use the touchscreen to input anything, or more likely and more safe, if your passenger was going to use the touchscreen, they can't because the car is moving. Well, with option A, it disables that feature so that you can indeed use the touchscreen while moving. I know that's a very popular one, and I'm going to give that one a try as well. And lastly, I'll have to start the car to show you these ones. They have to do with the backup camera. So I'm just going to go into the home menu. We'll start the car. It'll be nice to get rid of that nanny warning. So, if we put the car into reverse, we get our backup camera. So there's a couple of tweaks. Number C, remove safety warning label, will remove this legend here, this safety warning, which be nice for some people. And J is listed as install semi-transparent parking sensor graphics. I'm not exactly sure what that does at this point, but I'm going to give it a shot, and you'll see later what it actually does. I think maybe it makes these lines semi-opaque as opposed to being opaque. We'll see. So, shutting the car down. That's a look at whether or not, how to find your version and whether or not you can use the tweaks, and a few of the examples of the tweaks to give you an idea about whether or not you might want to try some of these things. So, We'll cut this here and pick it up inside on the computer, and I'll show you how to actually prepare the tweaks and install them using your laptop computer. And then we'll come back to the car, install the tweaks, and take a look at some of the results. Thanks for watching.